Thank you for tuning in to the Small Business Showcase. I'm your host, B-Rad, and we are doing a special edition new upgrade. We are having a brand new videographer doing the show for us. We give a shout out to Dominique Robbins with Art Matters Production. He's going to be helping making the videos even more cooler. So if you're listening right now on Podbeam, Spotify, Pandora, SiriusXM, YouTube, well, I guess YouTube you'd have the video, but as well as Apple Podcasts, Amazon, you want to tune into our YouTube channel, tune into our stream, tune into the Twitch, and check out how Dominique is making these videos a lot better. I have my guest here, Griff, with Nerdstalgia. How you doing today, sir?
Good, man.
Glad to have you on. And Nerdstalgia is one of the sponsors here for the Small Business Showcase. We appreciate you for everything that you do for us. So how long have you been open now at the Citadel Mall?
We just hit 10 months. We're starting to think about what we're going to do for a 1-year anniversary sale and party.
Congratulations to you. It's not easy being a business owner, but when you started, you were working for a mattress company and then eventually went on your own. What made you decide that I'm done with the W-2 world? I'm going to take a chance and invest into yourself?
Really, the way corporations treat people. There is always an issue with a company and it's never at the top. It's always with the workforce, apparently. So, I've left 2 companies now that have both gone bankrupt since I've left. So, it's hard to make it without me, I guess.
That's the true thing when they lose out on all the good employees out there. So what made you decide that, hey, Nerdstalgia is the route I'm going to go? I want to sell old school toys and take us back to the past.
Yeah, so that's something that I've always been into. I've always been a collector of toys, physical medias, of different types, especially vinyl records and Blu-ray 4K for myself. But comic books, it's always been something that I've been into. I've always been a little collector nerd. So I knew the market. I've always been in retail and management. So, 28 years of running companies for stores for larger companies. I ran a pretty good store in companies that didn't do well and figured, at a certain point, I was just miserable in my work and working for somebody who didn't value me. And I lost my own sense of self-worth. And honestly, it was therapy and working through and finding a plan. And, what would I want to do with my life? I'd love to own a record store or a toy store or something like that. And, worked on a plan to make something happen and came up with something unique. There are toy stores. There are comic book stores. There are record stores. There are video game stores. We carry a little bit of all of that, and we just kind of like to give throwback vibes. So it was a market that I knew as far as retail and the product. And, I used to be a district manager and really started collecting random things when I'd have all this free time in towns after doing my work. All I knew were my employees in most of these towns. So I would find a thrift store or a pawn shop and, find unique old video games at the time or, movies or records or just things that I'd find on the cheap and they were worth way more. And then I started saying I can, with that plan from the therapist, I can do this. I know how to run a retail store. I've seen other ones ran worse and be successful. I knew I could do it. So, it was a 3-year intensely planning, collecting, working towards it. One of my favorite quotes is, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So I was doing the preparation, waiting for the opportunity, and found the opportunity at the Citadel Mall.
So what made you decide Citadel Mall to be your location versus Chapel Hills Mall or even some of these retail shops that you could be at and have constant traffic seen from the road?
There's actually a store in both malls called the House Collective, and they do a lot of retro product, but really heavy on clothes. And I noticed they had a few records, some toys, some retro product, and met with the owner about trying to sell some of my stuff on consignment at Christmas time, trying to increase my sales volume to make some money to go into a shop. And he didn't really have the space for my product, but told me how much rent was at the malls right now, because malls are going through a transition. Rent is not expensive to be in a mall, and you're guaranteed some type of foot traffic. It may not be tons, it may not be everything you look for, but you can set up on a street corner anywhere and may not get anybody walk in your store all day long. So, the combination of rent, the traffic. I like the vibes of the Citadel Mall too. I love the way the food court's arranged. I love some of the mom and pop shops that are unique there. And, they do have some, corporate stores that I do like to shop at, like a Vans or a Journeys. And I think that, there's a lot of vacancies because corporations pulled out of malls when malls stopped performing, and it really screwed over malls in America. But corporations don't care. It really hurt malls. So Citadel's doing a good job of rebuilding it with mom and pops stops.
There is a lot of mom and pop shops for sure at the Citadel.
Yeah.
So when you opened up your shop recently, well, I guess not recently when you opened, but recently you became a actual wholesale distributor of vinyl records too. Is that correct?
Yeah. So that was always the dream when I was a teenager. I wanted to own a record store. I was really close with an uncle of mine at the time, and we'd look at these old, dilapidated downtown buildings and talk about how we'd set it up and how we'd arrange it. And then it was in the back of my mind whenever I was doing retail for corporations. And I would always try to, especially when I was in a music store, I'd try to have personal touches in the shop, which I'd often get in trouble for from the regional overlords. But I also performed very well in those niche areas, punk rock, vinyl, ska music, screwed and chopped hip hop was huge at the time, which is a deep cut that only a few will know. But those niches, I was one of the top performers in the company in those subgenres. So I knew what I was doing. Corporate just didn't like it, but they also knew what they had and transferred me to bigger stores and that kind of stuff. So I learned a lot in that I brought with me. So anyway, the goal was, the dream, not the goal, the dream was to always have a record store where I could order records and choose what I'd put in my store, not just take things in or have a supply drop of these are our top selling records. I get to choose what's in my store based on my knowledge and customer feedback. And that's what I have. I have my knowledge of music that goes ridiculously diverse. And I listen to customers. I make a list. If I hear an artist more than 3 times, then I'm probably going to order it.
Okay, Kasky. There you go. You heard him 3 times.
Okay. I need to hear from 3 different people. Maybe I should say that.
Oh, dang.
Don't do that with Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah. No, we learn the hard way sometimes. So one of the things that I feel is unique about your store is the video game section that you have. Yeah. You have all the video game consoles there. You have the game of the day that they could play for free.
Yeah.
Or they could request and play an old school game. Has there been a game that's most popular that's been requested?
Oh, man, there has been. But we've had to change the way we've done game of the day a little bit.
Really?
Somebody took that popular game home with them. So that's
someone snatched it?
Yeah, that's a $200 video game when we're talking Def Jam Fight for New York. So I may have been a little too trusting. I gave the benefit of the doubt and thought, man, maybe, we were messing around trying to move things around, and maybe the disc came unlodged. So I even took the PS2 apart to see if it was in there and broke my PS2 doing it. We're going to have to put some collateral when you rent the space now. Not just your $15 for the hour, but you're going to have to leave your keys or an ID or something. So I know I get my stuff back, but I got the game on reorder, man. It's, hey, live and learn. And
but that's sad that other people have to screw it up for others.
Oh, I know. But yeah, we still have game of the day. So what I did is I set up one of our NES emulators. So it's got like 600 plus Nintendo games. So you can sit and have old school fun. And, you know, there's 600 games of the day there. So still come in, play. If you want to rent the space and choose a game, I still have all my systems set up from Nintendo and Sega Genesis to PS4 and Xbox One S. I don't have a PS5 up there at this time, but we've got all the systems between those time frames, and you can choose any of the games that we sell or from my personal library. Just know you're going to have to like leave your car keys or an ID or
cell phone or something.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I enjoyed as a kid on the PlayStation 2 was WWE Shut Your Mouth, WWE Here Comes the Pain.
Oh, yeah.
And that's funny. Facebook's been showing reels of those games, and I'm like, man, that's bringing back some actual Nerdstalgia. So do you have those games on the play to where you're going to drain my checks because I'm going to come play them?
So for you, just let me know ahead of time because I have almost any wrestling game in my personal library, so I can always bring it up there. My personal library, you've seen my basement.
Yeah.
We're not going to give any addresses because we don't need to have visitors.
No, you got to be special like you.
But yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff down there, and the wrestling game and DVD Blu-ray collection it's a little obsessive and ridiculous.
Well, as the viewers can tell, that you have a belt on you.
I do.
It's actually now mine, but I did get it from Nerdstalgia.
Yeah.
That's showing some of the stuff that you can get. What kind of belts do you have right now in your collection that you're selling?
Well, the best sellers are always the Cena spinners. So I've got both the World Heavyweight Championship and his U.S. title with that spin. I've got the World Heavyweight Championship on reorder because we've sold a bunch of those. We've brought them in 3 times, sold them 3 times. So that's a pretty good success rate on that one. It's the new world title with the Roman Reigns side plates, the guy who holds it right now.
Yeah, he's got the title again?
Yeah, he's the one that beat my boy CM Punk. That's the one you saw last Saturday. I had the CM Punk side plates on my belt. I personally have the NWA World Television, WCW World United States, and the current WWE World Heavyweight.
So I got one you don't personally have.
Yeah. We've had this at the store a couple times. You got it the only time we had the WWF one,
and that's the one I was wanting as a kid.
Yeah. So we've got those 2, one coming in. We've got the current Intercontinental Championship. We've got old school NWA Championships, ECW. But the best one in the store right now is an official TNA World Heavyweight Championship. And on the back, there's 6 signatures from current champion Santana, former and probably next world champion Nick Nemeth, Moose, Josh Alexander, and both of the Hardy Boys.
The Hardy Boys is going to make it what's worth it, at least because I'm old school.
Yeah. Well, those are the expensive ones for sure, man. I was in the line for the Hardy signatures, and apparently there were between 500 and 600 people in the line. I was the first to the cheapskate line. I didn't pay for the fast pass, so I waited behind all the fast pass people, which gave me some fodder for my article that I write. I also write for Pro Wrestling Torch, pwtorch.com, and write a top 5 article for them every week. So
how do they find you on that website?
Just pwtorch.com. You can go to opinions and top 5 under opinions, and you'll find any of them that say top 5 in that section, because there's a top 5 like whatever, and then there's like maybe like a top 3 promos of the week, top 3 matches of the week. It's like a top whatever section or rundown section, but the top 5 articles are always me.
Is there any chance, like if someone would come in and be like, hey, Griff, I'm looking for this specific toy, this Marvel thing, this WWE thing, like this video game, things like that. Will you actually keep an eye out for those items for people too, if they have a special request?
So I've got a list of people that, when I see Rogue and X-Men Rogue and Gambit X-Men stuff come in, I've got a customer. Alien Funko Pops, I got a customer. So, I've got a list, and, I've helped other people, especially when they're a little leery about buying on eBay, don't know what they're looking for, don't know what a good buyer or a bad buyer is, don't want to deal with a return if it was a bad buy. I'll take care of all of that. And, I usually charge like a very small finder fee, like 10% or whatever. So something costs $10, I'm going to ask for 11. Very small finder fee, but I want to give people what they want.
Now, one of the things that you say with your store is, what are you nerdy about? So I'm going to throw that at you. What are you nerdy about since you own a nerd store?
Pretty much everything in there other than the anime. Anime and manga has never been my thing. But I carry some of that, as well as like the Barbies and, Fisher Price toys. Those, were never my jam either, but pretty much everything in there. My three biggest loves are superheroes, pro wrestling, and rebellious music. So, punk rock, hip hop, wrestling of any form. I like pro wrestling. I like amateur wrestling. I like folk style, freestyle. I like UFC when it's not on the White House lawn. I enjoy one-on-one competition, scripted or legit. I just love the story and who's going to win and why would they win and how did they win. And, you can tell a great story when it's scripted. People are asking, isn't that fake? And I say, as fake as every fight that you've ever seen in a movie. And I bet you were invested in it. And I bet they cut a bunch of times and used stuntmen.
That's a good point with it. Just a couple of months ago, you even had a wrestling in the Citadel Mall.
Yeah, that was our grand opening party. We opened in August. But it's, you have a soft open and then you run into Christmas season. Not a good time to throw a big grand opening party. So in January, we threw our grand opening party and we had a wrestling ring in the mall and had some matches. And that was a blast. And I got to be a ring announcer for the first time, which was pretty cool.
Little childhood dream you completed there.
Absolutely.
So when speaking of wrestling, for the entire time from wrestling started till today, who, in your opinion, is the greatest of all time and your favorite wrestler?
Oh my God. Greatest of all time, man, that's hard. To me, it'd be between Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels. You could put AJ Styles in that conversation. My personal favorites have been Ravishing Rick Rude. I loved the bad guys as a kid, and he was my favorite bad guy. And I liked him over Sting, who eventually became a favorite when I understood the good guy. And, Van Vader was too much of a bad guy. So, I ended up really enjoying Sting, but Ravishing Rick Rude was my first love. CM Punk is a guy that came back to wrestling after a long layoff, and he's an absolute favorite of mine, probably one of my favorites to wrestle right now. I also really like a guy named Samoa Joe, and currently big fan of Toni Storm, and women's wrestler, and Swerve Strickland, big AEW guy.
So for me, the greatest of all time and favorite wrestler is still Stone Cold Steve Austin. He revolutionized the business.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't say Hulk Hogan, because almost everyone has to say Hulk Hogan, but I think he was a tad bit overrated in my personal opinion.
I don't think he was overrated. I don't think it's depending on what you look at. I was never a Hogan guy. For one, I cut my teeth on WCW wrestling in a post Hogan's big run era. I watched in a downtime of wrestling when it was, Sting and Ravishing Rick Rude, Cactus Jack versus Abdullah the Butcher, Van Hammer. And those are the feuds that I remember. I remember stunning Steve Austin versus the natural Dustin Rhodes. That's the wrestling I broke in on. So by the time he was Stone Cold Steve Austin, yeah, I was a fan because I loved I said I loved Ravishing Rick Rude. There was the Dangerous Alliance group, which was Paul Heyman, known as Johnny Dangerously, had a group with Ravishing Rick Rude and Stunning Steve Austin both in his stable. So when I first started watching wrestling, I definitely knew the Steve Austin name. So I loved seeing him become Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I love that he went against expectations of what WWF was at that time, because it really was an entertainment family children's product. Everybody had an occupation, Hulk Hogan was a real American. Diesel was a truck driver. They had people who were trash collectors and repo men and dentists and hockey players. I mean, everybody had a gimmick. And Stone Cold just came in as an ass kicker. And that's what the fans wanted, especially in the 90s. It was the Jerry Springer era. It was the, give the middle finger to authority era. And Stone Cold fit that. And so did The Rock. And when he became The Rock. So that was what fans were looking for at the time, and still are a little bit, but they're a little too big and too corporate to be having, middle fingers and beer drinking and all of that in front of all the families. They did it to save their business at the time.
The PG killed it, in my opinion. That's why I stopped watching wrestling in 2010.
You can say it killed it or it changed it. And I think it changed it, because to say it killed it, they took a step back in business to take massive steps forward. If you look at it now, it's still rated PG, and they're making more money than they ever had as a company.
Which I can't fault them, but it killed it for me.
Sure.
But they're not trying to get B-Rad to watch again. Yeah. They're trying to get all the other people to watch.
And that's where I've been trying to get you over to watch AEW. Swerve Strickland dropped an F-bomb on it last night, which is a rarity, and it mattered. Like, it was like, this is on TNT, and he dropped an F-bomb. Now I watched an international feed. They didn't bleep it. I assume they had bleeped it in the American audience. But that's the type of wrestling I like, and you would like. And it is a little bit more, has a lot more attitude to it. And, it's not a PG product.
The thing that got me to stop watching it was back in 2000, but maybe it was 2011, but it was Monday Night Raw. John Cena was feuding with Sheamus, and John Cena called him a giant jar of mayonnaise. And I'm like, that's gonna, and then of course Sheamus gets all mad and wants to fight. I'm like, you're gonna get mad being called a giant jar of mayonnaise? Like, this is pathetic. And that's when I stopped watching.
I was not Cena. I was not a Cena fan. I respect him. I like him as an actor. I think he's great in things like Peacemaker, and Ricky Stenicki is underrated. But I was never a Cena guy when he wrestled. Now, then I went to a show with my kids, and they loved Cena, and I understood. I understood the business of what they were doing, because if you don't grab them as a kid, they're not fans as an adult. And you were a fan of a very specific type of wrestling, not wrestling itself. So they're grabbing kids that become fans of wrestling itself that will be fans forever. And that's what's happening. And it's cyclical, just like nostalgia. Every 20 years, every 15 years, you're going to see a pop for a property that was big before. We're going through it with Pokemon cards right now. I cannot tell you how many people stop in my store asking if I carry new Pokemon packs. No, I don't do much on new stuff. I have toys, records, and old stuff. So yeah, that the trends always come back around, but I'm telling you, man, you'd love some AEW.
So you also have a podcast that I've been a guest on, which we need to do our new episode where we talk about Skyrim. You want to mention your podcast you have on YouTube?
Yeah. So at Nerdstalgia Shop is where you can find it. And it's on hiatus right now because it's summer, it's con season. And I just found out I don't have time for everything. So we'll come back for a season 2 starting this fall. And we just talk about things people are nerdy about. So there's kind of 2 different series within the podcast. What are you nerdy about? What am I nerdy about? What are you nerdy about? I'm interviewing a customer or a friend about what they're nerdy about. And they pick the topic and we deep dive into that topic, and I let them talk all they want to about that topic. in there, I'm going to show things we carry at the store related to that topic, to make it a little commercial for the store. I have, no grand plans to monetize my YouTube channel. I just want to have fun, get to know customers, and, I assume that customer will want friends to watch it and they'll learn about my store. The other series is What Am I Nerdy About? I have a friend that co-hosts, and he flips the script and asks me. I pick a topic and he just asks me questions about that topic, and we'll deep dive into that.
So he had to stop me because I just kept going on about video games. He's like, okay, we've hit the hour point. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, it's hard to get people to listen, period. But you go past an hour, nobody's listening.
True on that. That's why we do about 15 to 30 minutes on interviews too.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about your shop or you're nerdy about, anything that we didn't touch on that you want people to know?
Man, no matter what you're into, we've probably got something for you. You come in thinking we're going to have the biggest collection of Nintendo games. We're not. We don't have the deepest collection of, records, although that's getting pretty good. But I only have so much space. I only have so much money. It's just, I'm a one-man show. It's me. So, but stop in. You'll have a fun time.
There is one thing that I think we should add, because it is a conversation that we've personally had when it comes to physical copies where, it's the digital streaming era, but all my movies I bought on Microsoft. Microsoft stopped selling movies and TV shows. So I either have to redo my entire digital collection altogether or have anything new moving forward, have to have it on a separate thing, which is disappointing. So one of the things we've talked about is physical media. And you want to add a point on that and just how you feel on that based on what we've just talked about?
I've always been a fan of physical media. Going back to music, they'll remaster an album, they'll change a record, play with the way it sounded. Movies, the most obvious is Star Wars, and the way that they've played with that and what you saw as a kid is not what you're watching today. If you're streaming it on Disney Plus, it's a very different movie in so many ways, and really takes some of the soul out of the effort they put into the models to put CGI over that. Is just, it's not the same. They can play with the formats and how the movie looks and the color tones on streaming. If you're streaming with subscriptions, they can change where it's at. Even if you're buying subscription or you're buying a movie digitally, you're only buying a license. You're not buying the movie, and they can pull that at any time. There's been games that have been purchased that you cannot download anymore, and same with movies, or they can't be watched in the same way. So I think art should be preserved, and I'm all about owning it. I think you also add appreciation when there's actual friction. You're putting a needle to a record, putting a tape in a VCR, whatever, kind of gets your nerddom and nostalgia, whatever format you choose to collect. Don't understand the VHS thing. They look terrible and they're bulky, but people buy them. So whatever you get, that preserves that version of that art.
And the biggest thing to go with the Star Wars is Vader yelling no at the end of Return of the Jedi, which ruins it.
No, I have a bigger problem with the end of Jedi, where in the original, you see the Force spirits with of Sebastian the three, right? And you get old man Vader. You get Yoda, you get Obi-Wan Kenobi. In the new versions, you get Hayden Christensen. How did Yoda, Obi-Wan do the right thing their whole life, and they get old man bodies in the afterlife, but Vader kills children, destroys planets, and he gets young man body? No, that ain't right.
And all of his limbs back.
That ain't cool.
Well, I grew up and saw the first, second, and third movies in theaters. So as a kid, I thought that was cool. Yeah. But I always felt that if they were going to do that, why not put the prequels Obi-Wan in there instead of Alex? Even though Alex was in 4, 5, and 6. But if you're going to do that, do it to all, not just one. Yeah. Even in the Obi-Wan TV show, Qui-Gon Jinn is older, too. Yeah. And he died younger. Well, what are the hours for your store, by the way?
We're open 11 to 8, except for Sundays 11 to 6. Wednesdays, we're not officially open, but we've been toying with it the last few weeks, so I haven't made an official decision that we'll be open 7 days a week. We've been open 7 days a week, but, don't come on Wednesday expecting me to be open because I might not be.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate you being on the show and being a sponsor of the show. And you have a great rest of your day. And be prepared to see the different episodes we have of the Small Business Showcase. And we'll have Griff back on in future, too.